Hi guys, I'm Ryan Houston and welcome to my fly tying channel. Your video is about to start shortly. Please take this opportunity to hit the like button down below, leave some comments, tell your friends. Interaction, likes, subscriptions help my channel to grow and help me to keep producing content for yourselves. If you're new to my channel, check out the other videos that I've got. There are over 500 videos at this stage, so there should be something there for everybody. Again, video is about to start. Hit that like button down below. Hi guys, so what we're tying tonight is it is a classic fly, but it's probably right at the end of the classic fly era. So what we're tying is a skeleton beetle. So the beetles were, I've tied those in a previous video. Pull one of them down here, do you see? So the beetles were a series of flies which were meant to replace all of the old patterns, in that you fished, all the bodies are the same but the wings varied, so you would choose this silver speckled wing to imitate or replace one set of flies. There's ones with brown wings which were to replace another list of flies, and then we came to these which are the skeleton beetles, and I have a feeling that these probably would still fish today, in that they are quite likely, they're a low water type fly, and I was intrigued by the V type wing that was in them. So I suppose if you were fishing this on a floating line, it probably would create some sort of a riffle or disturbance right up on the top. So a light wire, low water style salmon iron, and I'm going to varnish my thread if I can find, not varnish my thread, wax my thread if I can find my wax. So, the tag on this is fine silver oval, so I'm going to use a vintage one here, which is prone to snapping, but give it a go. And I'm just going a little bit round the bend here, not too much. And then I'll flip the fly over so that I can wrap into the bend. I find it easier. And put on 4 or maybe 5 turns of tinsel. And I'm going to cut that off. So, tail on this fly is a golden pheasant topping, but we're just going to use the very sort of tip of one. Trim that off. Right, so the butt on this calls for ostrich dyed buff. So what's buff? To me it's a sort of a browny sort of colour, so I'm going to use this. Tie that in, have it stripped back. create a little bed just for that to wrap onto. Vintage ostrich prone to breaking, but when you've waxed the bed it stops it from fully unraveling each time that it gives. I'm going to put on maybe 5 wraps or so of that and tie it off. So now if we wet my finger I can just brush the ostrich fibres back, and when that dries out it'll hold a decent shape for us. So we now take our same tinsel again and we're going to tie that in as our rib. So I'll flip the fly over because I'm going to tie it in on the far side. And then tie it down along the length. Of the body. So the body on this fly is in 2 parts. So the rear half is red floss, red silk, and the front half black, ribbed with fine oval silver. So I'm going to put on a double layer of the red. I'm just going to wiggle it to get it out and flat, and then we'll wrap that backwards until we get up here to the ostrich, and then we just want to wiggle it so that it's nice and level if we can help it, and then take that forward. I'm going to tie that in, and then because this is a return eye hook I'm going to tie it in on the side that the return eye comes back on, which is the near side generally, and bind that up until it hits the return eye, and then just flip it back and come back halfway with it and nick it off, and that sort of takes out the step for us. I'll bind that down with our tying thread forward here, and then we'll tie in our black. So we use a black silk here. And we'll do the same. Tie it in, tie back over it, and then just wiggle it out flat. Take it back to the junction that we're making at the midpoint, and then start to come forward. Tie that off at the front, flip it back on itself, secure it, trim that off, and then if we take our burnishing tool and just take out some of the flaws in our silk work. And then wrap the silver oval. And tie it off at the front. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tie this fly in two parts, so I'm going to have to come back to it. It's actually a series of flies. I think there are 5 of them. So, but all of them have identical bodies like this. So I'm just going to finish that off. And the reason for that is that they were all varnished. And I suppose this added durability to them. And possibly a little bit of flash or whatever, I don't know. But now they were varnished in Clear varnish. So I'm just going to put some of that on with cocktail stick. Allow it to create a blob the whole way around. Just spinning the fly around, and I'm going to try if I can to avoid getting too much of it back into the ostrich. But that may not 100% work for us, but we'll try. So we've coated the body now in the clear, and we're going to leave that aside to dry. And when it dries, we'll come back to it and we'll add the wings to it. So okay, so we've left this to dry overnight. So now the body is varnished and glossy. So the skeleton beetles, like the beetles, were intended to be a variation on a theme and therefore to imitate other patterns. So all of them had the same body as this, and then the wing is something quite unusual. So the wings were created with V's from feathers. So what they did was to take a large brown hackle. So the base of them all had a large brown hackle in it. So they snipped the feather, and then they separated out that and created a V in the end of the feather, and that was going to be tied in, and then they all then had a varied feather on top of that to cap it. So this would be tied in like this to create a V. So in this case what I'm going to do is tie the speckled skeleton beetle, which used teal, although other ones used tips of white feathers, and they used I think the buff one was like something off a normal cock pheasant's back, and there was another one with grouse in it, but we're going to go with the speckled. So I'm going to add black tying thread on here and trim that off. So again, for the cap to it, they were using on this one a teal feather. So we would strip back the teal and then again take our scissors and just go in and snip out the center of the feather to create this V, which will then sit on top. So it'll be interesting to see how this sits. I would imagine each one will have its own challenges in that feather stalks tend not to be the same. So I'm just going to create a little level bed of waxed tying thread here, and I'm going to set this up on top. It's a little bit long. What I'm going to do is pinch it with my my tweezers to see what way it'll lay, and so long as it doesn't change shape here, I think it should sit for me. So I'm just going to use the tweezers, or you could use flat nose pliers just to flatten that up, make it sit. Secure that down. So now we have this sort of like a little wisp of feathers on each side of the shank, and then we'll take our teal and do the same. I'm just going to set it up on top and just hold it in position. Try and get it straight. Once it's straight, I just hold it. And bind it down. So now we have this sort of V on top, which yes, if you were fishing a fly very high up in the water, will give you sort of like a little bit of a skiffling movement, I would imagine. And all of these flies then had a badger hackle in front. So I'm going to take the badger hackle here, and I'm going to double it over. Ignore my phone. Tie that down. And wrap it on. So I'm just going to put on 2 turns of hackle there. As I can imagine, these are sort of low water type things. You could possibly even get away with 1 turn, but we'll go with 2. Trim that off, wax the thread and finish the head. So a little bit of clear varnish onto the head. And that is our skeleton beetle. So an unusual fly, but I think it probably would translate more to modern day fishermen than maybe a lot of the other classics do. But and certainly the unusual sort of wing style in it there, I think, would add to the action of it. So something different. Hopefully it'll appeal to classic aficionados as well as our modern fly fishermen here, fly dressers. So the speckled skeleton beetle. So hopefully you liked what you see. If you did, give us a like, subscribe, tell your friends, check out the other videos on the channel, and until next time, tight lines, and thanks for watching.